In pre-independent India, there were active riverway linkage between Bengal and northeast of India. Tea and jute were transported by the Brahmaputra River all the way up to Kolkata, and in 1847, British India Steam Navigation Company introduced steamships on these very routes. However, post the partition of the subcontinent, many of these riverways remain unutilized for several decades. In recent years, the government has given a renewed push for the development of inland waterways in the country, and a special focus has been given in enhancing the connectivity between West Bengal and northeast of India via Bangladesh. In February, the maiden transport of Tata Steel cargo was undertaken between Haldia port in West Bengal and Pandu port in Assam via the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. ET Infra engaged with Prabhakar Prakash, CEO Ocean World Shipping, and Rupayan Datta, owner LSC Solutions, who were engaged in undertaking this voyage. They highlight the challenges and opportunities associated with the transport of cargo via the inland waterways. Thank you, both of you, for joining us out here at ET Infra. I will first start off with Prabhakar. If you
Right.
could, briefly outline, about your company and how it has been engaged in the inland waterways over the years.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, and thank you for letting me be part of this discussion. Actually, my company, Oceanwell Shipping Services Private Limited, this was formed way back in 2016. I have a selling background. I've been selling as a master mariner. I have worked in Antwerp, Rotterdam area. I've seen very closely how the barging industry is working in Europe. And after the Modi government came in power, there's a lot of stress from his side also to have waterways, efficient waterways movement. So that encouraged us to take the plunge. In 2016, we formed this company with my brother. 2 years actually we just spent on researching and seeing the viability, and because waterways, as such, any waterways is a very capex intensive industry, so you have to have a to even do any startup, you have to have a large amount of resource to back it up. So we did some quite a lot of research from 2016 to 18. Finally, 2018, we decided that we have to start moving. So we were doing a lot of interaction with officials from IWI at different levels, and also we were engaging the industry. And when I was on board, my office got a call that they had prepared a vessel to carry 16 containers, and we had cargo. So immediately I spoke to my brother and I said that we should not miss this opportunity. So since we had already worked out with PepsiCo that time, there was a major one company which they were also showing interest. Their Lot 16 was quite positive on participating in the waterways, and so since the support was there, so I told my brother to execute the project while I was on board, and I was briefing him on the phone. So he managed it well. We loaded the 16 containers, took it on R&Tego vessel. It reached Varanasi in 8 days, and PM was himself there to receive it. So the response was quite good. So we are more encouraged by that moment. We got a lot of interest from the company, other companies to do this movement. Subsequently, we had a return voyage from Varanasi to Calcutta, and we had three companies like PepsiCo gave a return load. We had IFCO Cargo and Dabur, and we delivered it in Calcutta door to door. And again, we took a cargo of Imami cargo to Patna, complete 16 containers. So there was the moment was quite encouraging, and we learned a lot. So but there were certain issues like because the vessel was quite small, so the viability as such could not come in a small vessel. So we shifted to bulk movement, and we did some movements from Calcutta, Farka to Nayanganj, from for railway aggregates which were to be transported for a railway line in Nayanganj. We loaded at Farka and we discharged in Nayanganj. Then we did a cargo for Bhutan to Nayanganj using Dhubri as a transshipment port. That was also quite encouraging. In all these things, what was happening was that we were actually using the assets which was with IWI, which were earlier not being used, and we knew the potential of those vessels, and so we had to we operated those vessels. But due to certain infrastructure issues, we felt that we needed to concentrate on areas where the infrastructure is developed already, so Bangladesh. So we started focusing our attention on Bangladesh, and we took vessels on bareboat charter from private owners. Like most of the vessels are from Jindal ITF. We started with one, and we consider at that time we had the Bhil Rampal power project still going on, and they were having a lot of logistical issues in transporting cargo. So we assisted them. We did quite 8 movements with Bhil, and we transported their cargo successfully to Rampal. That's how we started increasing our operation, and currently we are operating 9 barges on Indo-Bangla Protocol route from 2019 onwards, and we have our target was to basically shift the road movement which is happening from Benapur to waterways. So we started with fly ash, which is a major commodity which is moving from Calcutta to Bangladesh as an anchor cargo to have a sustainable operation. And we work with exporters as the supply chain, and they liked our service. And with the backup of that, we slowly did a lot of steel coils. We have shifted to waterways. Cotton bales have shifted to waterways. We have done some grain cargo. So in this last 2 3 years, we our operations have been quite sustainable on this Indo-Bangla Protocol route. 2022 onwards, in the current Calcutta Pandu movement, there was a lot of interest from Calcutta port. In fact, if you see the Indo-Bangla Protocol, lot the cargo movement is majorly happening from Calcutta port trust. So, with their encouragement and the encouragement of Mr. Shipping, we again started NW2 movement, because our main vision of the company was to connect Calcutta port to Guwahati and all the way up to Varanasi. That is the main objective, providing cost-efficient transportation, and the target is to cut down the logistics cost by at least 15%. So then only the companies will be able to move to waterways. So again, with the encouragement of Calcutta Port Trust, we took this moment, and that also we did successfully, and we are confident that it will grow. So for the last 3 4 years, that is the background which our company has from moved up as a startup, and we are quite positive about the waterways as such.
Right. So I would also now like to bring in Rupayan. If you could, briefly outline about your company's activities and projects as well. You are looking into the last mile connectivity in Assam and Northeast. Could you just give a brief outline as to how those things are panning out in those areas?
Yeah, good evening, Rishi. What LSC Solutions was formed in 2021. The whole idea of formation of LSC Solutions was to provide cost-efficient solutions to complex supply chain problems. As you know, in every intellectual discussion, you must have heard like close to 12 to 13% is our total logistics spent in the country, which is relatively higher than in other places of the world. So our main target, or the main reason for formation of LSC Solutions, was to provide cost-efficient and bring down the logistics cost as a whole in the entire Northeast India. So with this in mind, me and one of my colleagues started this company in 2021 November.
I would like to know, about the details. If briefly you could outline about the recent Haldia to Guwahati cargo transport that has happened, and that is of the Tata Steel cargo. Prabhakar, if you could briefly outline what was the experience undertaking this particular project from Tata Steel, carrying it all the way from Haldia to Pandu in Guwahati through the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. What has been the experience and the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, actually, first I would like to tell that this entire movement, Haldia to Pandu, was a total teamwork, and it was a total initiative of actually Calcutta Port Trust has taken the initiative in the beginning to do this movement. They showed a lot of interest. We were in discussion for a couple of months before this movement happened. So, and also the Ministry of Shipping, they had 2 3 stakeholders meeting to encourage the industry to look into this area, NW2. And since we had operational experiences, we had raised our concerns before doing this movement, and all those concerns were addressed by both jointly by the Ministry of Shipping and Port Trust. And Port Trust actually took the vessel. We shortlisted the vessels that was required that can do this movement, and Port Trust took that vessel from IWI on a charter, because if we would have gone through it, the process would have been very long. So being a government body, they took it and sub-chartered it from Calcutta Port Trust. After loading the vessel with TMT bars, actually before this, the industries they had a lot of concerns. So all that was quite well addressed by Agar Trust, the entire team. All the difficulties regarding customs and all, they brought this entire thing under Gati Shakti, and at a quite a fast pace, all those issues were sorted out, and finally the movement happened. So you see the actual sailing time that we had from Haldia to Guwahati is 174 hours, and the vessel after sailing from Haldia, it reaches Himnagar, the Indian border custom point. Then it enters Bangladesh through Sheikh Beria border custom point. From Sheikh Beria, it starts its journey and moves straight away to Chilimari custom point, where the Bangladesh custom point is there. And from after Chilimari custom point, it has to go to Dhubri. There, the Indian custom point is there, and then from there we move to Pandu. So actually, the entire journey was planned to be covered in actually 104 hours, but we did expect currents. So with that, the sailing time increased to 174 hours. The major challenge that we had faced was actually after a place called Bahadrabad, which is north of Sirajganj, very close to Chilmari border. So from Bahadrabad to Chilmari point, custom point, and Dhubri, there were a lot of small shallow patches that were inadequately dredged or not dredged. So where the vessel got faced a lot of problems, like it got stuck, or the tugs were used to dredge the area and free the vessel, because the assistance was not available. Only like the Bitwa people were there, complete Bitwa team boarded the vessel, pilots boarded the vessel, and anyway, pilots were there throughout, but additional pilots were also called in to assist in clearing the vessel. They use a lot of country boats to measure the natural depth of the water, where the depth is there. And once identified, then the vessel's tug was taken as rounding and agitating the silt, and then the vessel was cleared. And so the movement was quite slow. Like if you see, we moved from Haldia to Hyderabad in 9 days, just with daylight navigation, no night navigation. And the remaining distance was to be covered in 3 days, but that took around more than 15 days to reach Pandu. So basically, the main problem was in the between Hyderabad, Chilmari custom point, and from Dhubri to Pandu. As such, the water what we got was generally deep, more than 7-8 meters. There are 3 points. One was in Dhubri custom, just north of the Dhubri custom point. One point was in Gwalpara, and there was another point before Pandu, a place called Madarcha. So in Brahmaputra, only these 3 points, which are small points, that are the bottleneck. If you see the depths, like generally the concept was that the depths in the links are less, but the records that we have, what we observed en route throughout, from sailing from Haldia up to Pandu, all over the depths are close to 8 meters. Very few places are there 5 meters. So if actual proper dredging is done, we can have deep water. At least 3 meters is not a challenge to maintain 3-meter draft, and to have a full load vessel going to Pandu. So overall, this is due to that, the journey was prolonged, but the quality of the cargo once it reached Pandu was quite good. The receivers were quite happy of receiving the cargo in that condition, and they also said that the condition was better than railways or road.
Rupain, I will come to you. If you could briefly, describe or the activities that you had to take as far the last mile connectivity was concerned when the cargo did reach at Pandu, and also with regard to the return cargo load, which was mostly comprised of coal, how those activities were undertaken.
Right. LSC Solutions have a dedicated team with diverse backgrounds, which have experience in handling heavy car equipments and machineries, because most of the team members are from oil rig sector, where they handle very heavy equipments. And so we had formed a team with those resources. And then, however, like lack of proper infrastructure in the port, limited safe working hours, delayed our operations, and our operational cost did shot up. But we managed this operation with the limited infrastructure resources that we had in our hand. And in all total, we handled about 3,600 metric tons of cargo, but offloading and then loading. So I think in coming days, we are trying to put our own private machineries in the port, so that we can improve on our services, because as you know, in the service, like time is the key factor, and if you reduce the time, operational cost will come down.
Could you give us a very brief outline as to what is the current state of the Pandu port?
Right.
how much progress has been made on that port and how much feasible it is for it to receive regular cargo shipments?
So as on date, see, there are jetties. The jetty size is as such that we can unload one barge of 50 meter at in any point of time. Like the jetty size is very limited. So the jetty has to be extended for us to handle multiple vessels at this point of time. So the jetty is the first thing. That then again the equipments which are currently available are very old equipments. These are like as such like they are very low and slow. So that is the second thing. And then the safe working hours are limited to only daylight. So there is no 24 hours operation available at this moment of time.
So Rupan, you are based out of Assam in Guwahati.
Right.
Could you also tell us in terms of the logistics industry in the state and the region how it is panning out, because connectivity has always been an issue with that part of the region. So how is the
Yes.
Northeast as a region really sort of coming up when it comes to logistics connectivity and multimodal connectivity?
Yes. So see, we have got Northeast has got heavy reliance on the road transportation, and because of that, our logistics cost of sending material to Northeast is very high. So, and as such, end consumer as an end consumer, you would have always get a goods or service at a higher cost. So with this, like if you see, like with this our first trial movement, we have got queries from the industry for moving around close to 10 lakh tons of cargo annually by waterways. The people are coming on board, like because we are giving them around 15% cost savings compared to road, which I do believe is very less, but in compared to railways. But though we will be what you call complementing the railway, because railway racks are not available, or its limited availability is limited. So I'm seeing a very huge potential for multimodal transportation in this part of India. And then there is, like as you know, like most of our LPGs or even the like chemicals like naphthas are being transported through road, which are hazardous cargo. If we are able to convert those into waterways, then our roads could be much safer. Because and then the roads, how the roads all construction and work in progress going. But if we are able to shift certain amount of cargo to waterways, this will reduce our pressure on the chicken neck. And then also it will play a good role in reducing the road freight, because the road is the primary mode of connection as on date. Though railways is coming up with several projects, but still we are dependent on the road transportation. So I see a huge potential for waterways.
Yeah, the response from Tata Steel, that was your customer in the last particular commercial project that you undertook between Haldia and Pandu. What has been the feedback from the customer? How Tata Steel has seen the whole project, the viability of it, and whether they are going forward on using this particular waterways for more cargo transport?
The overall response is positive because ultimately the client was satisfied with the condition of the cargo. Main concern is the transit time. The transit time that we took last is of course not acceptable to the industry. We have to reduce it. So we are working on reducing it. If the as I said, if the depths are maintained, our target was to reach the cargo in 12 days, which was still acceptable to the industry. But they have actually the range that they are looking at is 7 to 8 days would be very good for them. But since the quality is good of the cargo that is reached, they are ready to give that leeway. But on the long run, we would have to reduce the time gap to less than 7 days. That's the ideal. And regarding the future use, they are of course very positive about waterways. In fact, they are looking at Ashuganj also very seriously, and other sectors on NW1, which we are trying to work out. By cost wise, what benefit we can give. A lot of work is going on that, and we are hopeful that we will start some movements on the Agatala route. For Pandu, what we are doing, as Rupan said, we are doing some loads for other cargoes, and we will certainly work on this route to reduce the transit time. And once the transit time, we are confident that we can give time-bound delivery. We will get again these quality clients for whom the customer feedback is very important regarding the transit time, because there's a lot of cost escalation on their part also. So that factor has to be taken into account very seriously. So transit time, once it is under control, they will definitely come on board. They are also quite positive. In fact, their logistics team, Tata, is also assisting us in this entire project. jointly. So we are working as a joint team on NW1 and NW2. So other industries also we have communicated with, apart from steel industry, even the container industry, they are seriously looking into this sector, because if you see, most of the containers are bound for Calcutta port, and we are directly entering Calcutta port. With the road, there are a lot of other issues, So apart from bulk, there's a lot of opportunity for container cargo. So the profile of cargo is definitely great for Northeast. Problem that we will be encountering is on the vessels, whether we have those type of vessels, or whether we can, how fast we can bring the vessels that are suitable for that region has to be seen. But from the client's perspective, most of them are quite positive.
You did talk about the vessels, and one of the important aspect about the inland waterways industry or the sector per se is about the financing of the vessels and the all the insurance aspects associated with it. Could you briefly outline how are you guys, those who are involved in the inland waterway sector, addressing or looking at the issues of financing? In your engagement with all the banks and other financial institutions, and how those things sort of going forward.
See, the main problem with the financial institution, we have been engaging for the last 2 years. In fact, our designs, everything is being made. Shipyards like Cochin Shipyard has assisting us in making they have made the design. The problem is the banks don't, the traditional banks do not consider this as a thrust area. Okay. Secondly, they do not have any comparison data available with them. Thirdly, they are getting a lot of negative feedbacks also from the the local departments that work on in the inland waterway sector. So that does not build up their confidence. So that is the problem that we have faced with the traditional banking sector. And since there are no other operators, quality operators, who are working on NW1 and NW2 or even Indo-Bangla Protocol route, Indian operators, so they are very reluctant to finance even one vessel. Secondly, if you look at private funding also, the problem that we have faced, though few equity, private investors have shown interest, but the problem there comes is that their expectation of equity is quite large. And if you see the entire model that we have created on waterways is totally based on fast decision making and a lot of risk taking. Even the NW2 movement, on paper, we knew that things would go wrong based on our past experience, but we still did it because we see a lot of opportunity in it. So once if we give the equity on basis of forming vessels, our entire decision making, future decision making could get affected. So there is these are the major two issues that we have encountered in getting financing for the vessels. We are still looking at a lot of external commercial borrowing also. We have engaged with a lot of companies. Then a lot of banks and even private equity funding or ECBs are asking for a letter of intent from companies to back for long-term LOI, which the companies as such are also reluctant to give, because it's still the area is not fully operational. There's a lot of their own procedures, inbuilt procedures, which do not allow them to give LOI such. So these are the challenges that we have faced, which is not helping us to build ships. And even the shipbuilding industry, after having so much of seeing so much opportunity, the industry is not developing. This is the main area for the insurance part. Already marine insurance is well established, so we have not found any problems on the insurance part.
My understanding is that currently diesel is the primary fuel that is used for transporting these vessels and the cargo. There has also been talk about LNG as a fuel, as a concept, and Hooghly Cochin Shipyard is also sort of working on the same. You are also engaged with them. Could you briefly also share with us?
Yeah, we had taken up this topic with Cochin Shipyard ourselves. We have engaged with GAIL. We are jointly engaging with GAIL also. The main problem where the challenge in this project is coming, what is happening is that the barges are basically the marine engine is a small size. The engine manufacturers are reluctant to go for the change of a dual fuel because there are a lot of technical challenges and investments that will be required to be made on their part. So they are not willing to make that investment because they don't see any still they have not see they don't see any positive outlook on this sector. We've been working for closely now more than 6 months to convince. We also looked at it from with GAIL's advice, to set up some kit or some companies who are expert in converting the road transportation to LNG. But what happens with the engine manufacturer is that the warranties which is coming with the engine. Once we do that modification, then that will not be applicable. So there is process. Second, also the problem is the infrastructure, the capex requirement for installing the LNG tanks and doing the modification is quite large. So as a startup, currently, what we are looking at is to establish our business, and then when we go for long building, new building, we have that in the design stage only. We keep that option open for going on towards LNG. The one new discussion we have started with the European companies on the battery operation also, battery propulsion, which also I feel is a more practical approach because the batteries are already working with ferries in Europe, similar power rating, and they are working hassle-free for quite some time. There they are using battery swapping or charging. But here what we are discussing is that some sort of hybrid model where the batteries are placed on board for propulsion, and we do the charging by generators. So the amount of fuel that is required is reduced. So in a way, you're cutting down the carbon emissions. Secondly, if tomorrow say we are able to develop the infrastructure, then the swapping facility can be in building. So there we don't have to go for major conversion later on. So these are two criteria, but there also the challenge is the capex. The capex for the battery propulsion is still quite high. So we have the discussion is going on whether those companies who are pushing such technology can provide some sort of soft loan or long-term financing to build those systems or the battery systems on board, install those systems on board, if that can be done. So they are also looking into it. So there are a lot of actually discussion, because what is happening is there is no clarity on the fuel, and once the vessel is built, it is going to be built for 25 years. So we are generally concerned that we build something which can be operated 25 years in an economical way and environment friendly way. So if we go for a traditional system, there is a lot of risk that maybe 4 5 years down the line it could get outdated. And since the capex is large, so certainly at the design stage, this is a very major concern that we have, that what type of propulsion has to be put in. So a lot of discussion is going on with the yards and other technology providers. So we are actually now more positive about, apart from diesel engines, on the battery propulsion. We are assessing the cost factor. Let's see if things go well, then soon India will have a battery operated vessels on NW1.
On battery propulsion, any particular technology partner or technology company with whom you are engaging?
Yes, we are engaging very recently with Clean Shift Energy. They are already operating some ferries in Europe. We had quite few discussion with the senior management in Europe and India. They are working quite closely with us. We have provided our designs to them, what we require on NW1 and NW2. They are assessing from their technical point of view how best they can introduce the system.
So my last query of this interaction would be to Rupayan. Rupayan, both you and Prabhakar were able to pull off this first assignment of Tata Steel cargo, but it was full of challenges and difficulties. You did talk about when we had last interacted about a nodal officer for addressing all those issues. Could you briefly also tell us the need of companies like yours for those particular teething issues that need to be sorted out?
Correct. So see, in inland waterway movement, what we found, there are multiple stakeholders. Like we had to, right from inland waterways, customs is also involved. Though it's a domestic movement, customs are there, port trust are there, local authorities are there, like state governments, respective state governments are also involved. And so, so we had to connect with multiple stakeholders to get a single issue resolved. So if we get a nodal officer kind of a thing, then it could be a real lifesaver for us and could save in terms of the time that is taken to resolve the issues. So addressing, currently we have to address multiple stakeholders to for any small issues, like, but if there is someone nodal officer through which we can communicate, then it could be very good for the future movements. As you know that currently we are operating the vessel, as Prabhakar mentioned, that with around 70% of the loadability. for us to be more efficient, and we need to target to close to 100% loadability. That can happen only with, as you mentioned, Prabhakar mentioned, that dredging that needs to be done. There are very few limit, like as when 10 to 11% of the total journey where we have issues with the depth. So if that is improved, that I see a very bright future and for this industry. So with that in note, I would say ki let's to keep we will keep trying unless we are very positive.
Thank you very much for both of you, taking your time out and joining us out here at ET Infra, and wish you all the best for your, future voyages and sort of the cargo loading and cargo contracts that you get over the, Indian waterways, both one and two.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
for
so
coming.
much.